Joy. Joy is a small word, but it has the ability to hugely impact our lives for the positive and for the good. And it's interesting to me how many people have so many different things that bring them joy that doesn't necessarily work for me or for you or whatever, but we all have things in our lives that bring us and give us joy. And I was thinking of Pastor Mike. If you've ever heard Pastor Mike speak, one of the things he constantly talks about in his messages is how he loves to surf. And it's one of those things that brings him so much joy. And I've even heard him go to the extent of saying that if you're a surfer and you love to surf, that you may be holier than other people. Now, I don't know if that's true, and my opinion's a little different. I was raised in the Pacific Northwest where I spent a lot of time out in the wilderness and the mountains and different places. And so for me, my joy was snowboarding. And if you're a snowboarder out there, I think we may be a little bit holier than surfers, but we can argue that at a different time. But as I said, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and so I spent a lot of times outdoors. I spent a lot of times fishing and hiking and snowboarding. And there was this one time when a group of friends and I, we got together and we decided that we were gonna hike up Mount Rainier and snowboard down. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of Mount Rainier, but it is the biggest mountain in Washington. It's a mountain that's about 14,300 plus feet. And it's a mountain that climbers that are going to Everest actually train on Mount Rainier before going to Everest. So we decided we're gonna climb this as far as we can go and then snowboard down. And so we get there and we're stoked and we're pumped. We have our packs and our goggles and our boots and we're all geared up and we start this hike. And it was amazing. It was a beautiful day. It was sunny. We're hiking in the snow in a beautiful sunny day. And it takes us about, I don't know, it was like 6, 7, 8 hours to get up to the elevation we wanted to go to. And we were at about 11,400 plus feet. And when you get up that high, things start to change. Your breathing starts changing. Your view obviously changed. And for me, it brought me this closeness that I almost felt closer to God. And I looked around and I saw this vast expanse and it was just breathtaking. And it was an affirming thing to me that God created this, and it was so great and marvelous to see. And then of course we got a snowboard down, and so you hike all that way and then you get a snowboard for about 30-40 minutes straight. And so it was awesome. And so being out in the outdoors made me really feel closer to God, and it really gave me joy. And so I found this verse that I really liked, and it says this. It's in 1 Chronicles 16. And we're going to read verses 32 through 34. And it says, "Let the sea roar, and all that fills it. Let the field exult, and everything in it. Then shall the trees of the forest sing for joy before the Lord. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever." And I thought this was such an interesting passage because it's literally talking about the earth and the things that are in the earth crying out and praising God. And so as I thought about that, I thought, well, then I need to cry out and praise God as well and have joy like these trees had. And where did I find that? I found that on top of this mountain. But the point of the story is that it took effort and it took work to get to that point where I could look at it out at the expanse of what God had created. And so I think joy oftentimes works the same way in our lives, is that it takes a little bit of effort. In this past weekend, if you heard Amy Elliott speak, and I'm going to paraphrase here, she's way smarter than me, so I'm probably going to butcher this, but she said something to the extent of, if you look for the negative, you will always find negative, and negative will be more abundant. But if you look for the positive, you will find positive, and the positive will be more abundant. And I think that's so true with so many aspects of our lives, including joy, that when we look for joy, we end up finding it. Because what we feed grows, and what we starve dies. So this week, I want to encourage you to join me in looking for joy so that we can get to the point this week where, like the trees, we can say, "Then shall the trees of the forest sing for joy before the Lord. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever."